Public meeting today organized by PUCL is a series of public meetings that PUCL has been trying to organize on a regular basis. Thanks to the pandemic, we've had a break in this process, but we've begun from last August, and that was a really wonderfully attended meeting. Today, I hope more people will join in after this. The earlier meeting was on attack on democracy in India, supreme attack on democracy in India, which was looking at the Supreme Court judgments and what the Supreme Court is doing to ruin the democracy of this country. Today's is on a similarly, so they are mainly relevant, current and somewhat controversial topics that we are taking up. This time it is around the GR that the Maharashtra government has brought out on 13th of December, and it's nicely titled Love in the Times of Hate. Something that a slogan that's been going around these days quite often, but also to talk of, so while we speak about the GR and what happened with it, and I don't need to tell here what the GR was, but the fact that they brought it in and they then changed it to remove intercaste relationships from that, the fact that this was a new way of attacking interreligious relationships. In other states, they have kind of brought in the laws to prevent conversions and thus thereby try to bring in some control on interreligious marriages. Here they are trying a different method, so it's good for us to understand what is in their minds when they're doing this. We have no qualms in understanding or no qualms in saying that this is essentially an attack on individual rights to choose their relationships and an attack on communities that are marginalized, both together. So basically Muslim but also Christian. The attacks are happening and we all are aware of it. The discussion today will try and link the larger issue of love in the time of hate to this authoritarian project that is going on. And before I start that, I feel that it's important to speak of, what is the nature of this hatred that is being spread. The attack on individual choice, an attack on the basis of caste, gender, religion, etc. is something that is completely this is something that's going on for a long time. And if I look at just yesterday and today morning, yesterday in the morning when the same-sex marriage petition was being heard in the Supreme Court, the United Hindu Sena of some sort was protesting outside the court and had also petitioned the court to not hear these petitions because they are against Indian culture. In the afternoon, there was a petition in the Supreme Court asking for uniform marriage. It was one dubious petition by a dubious petitioner who's been making these attempts time and again. Ashwini Upadhyay is his name, and he is asking for uniform marriage. He's saying uniform with respect to gender and religion, whatever that means. So they're trying various ways to disturb an existing fabric of the society, an existing fabric which is casteist, which is actually very Hindu, which is also patriarchal, and which is also, in some senses, against these very choices. So we are seeing a state using this sentiment of the larger population, using state machinery and using propaganda to build on this more and more. So we will then now look at how do we look at these attacks and what are our ways of resistance? How do we counter this? How do we understand what are the multiple ways in which this is happening? And we have a lovely panel here to talk about it. But I just want to put a little comment on this as a queer feminist activist and somebody who is from PUCL. So I think it's very welcome that PUCL organizes a meeting like this. Usually things related to family are seen as women's issues. Things related to love and intimacy are seen as issues of young or queer and trans maybe in today's times. But the point is that these are issues for all of us. And probably the right wing understands it much better than many of us. We are coming to these issues as the primary source from where the authoritarianism in society is justified very late in life, But whenever we come to it, I think it's time to start looking at it differently. Questions of family, actually, I mean, and I say that many of us who are in conflict with families, conflict with assigned families, because of our wish to choose our families differently. That choice that we make is actually against the hierarchical structures that are existing in society. They go against that. And we know that families at that moment, the assigned families, the natal families, become these institutionalized structures of power that represent the state and that create the violence within which love does not find space to exist and hate is encouraged. So connecting this personal, which is political, which is very important to the larger structures of society, is important for all of us, and maybe we should keep that in mind, because while they spread hatred, there are thousands of stories of love that continue to blossom. And I think that is something that we have to hold on to. The impetus of human beings to build on love is something that we are holding on to as we move further in this climate of hate. And I'm very tempted to say, quoting the man who is walking across the nation, that नफरत के बाजार में करोड़ों मोहब्बत की दुकानें खुली हुई हैं, उनको हम कैसे बचाएं, उनको हम कैसे संजोएं, how do we support them, how do we make them possible, is possibly the task before us. And with that I begin, I welcome the panel. We begin with Sai. Sai Thakur is an assistant professor at Center for Study of Social Inclusion and Inclusive Policies in TISS in the Mumbai campus. She is a sociologist and she has worked on issues of marginalization. So she brings to this debate a view from the margins to look at what is being constructed in the names of love jihad, and also to keep reminding us that the caste question is intricately linked to the Hindutva project.
Let me first and foremost thank Sandhya, Chayanika and PUCL for inviting me. As Chayanika said, I am a social scientist. The major area of my research is caste and gender. My PhD as well as my teaching and whatever research I've done. From my own understanding, think that the caste angle is the most important angle if we want to really understand this whole discourse on love jihad. So, the committee and what it means and what it represents, the laws, I'm not really getting into that. I will be doing a sociological analysis of the whole issue, because I think that is very important. If we really want to fight this, if we really want to change this, then we also need to have a sociological, social understanding of what is really happening in the name of love jihad. And the love jihad discourse is very clearly, closely connected with this committee, because Devendra Fadnavis on the previous day when the GR came out has actually told that, you know, we studied all these laws which are there now. There are, I think, there are anti-conversion laws are there in 11 states in India, and so they studied it, and that is, that is the beginning of this whole idea of having a committee to coordinate, family, marriage and family, interfaith marriage and family. And one important point to note, which also Chayanika mentioned, that initially there was intercaste as well in the title of that committee, but I think in 2-3 days it was dropped because there was a lot of hue and cry about, whether this, they didn't really give the real reasons, but they dropped it. And we will come to how caste is connected with this. If you look at this particular committee and all the acts against love jihad, though they don't say it openly, they are mainly concerned with interfaith marriages which involve Muslim and maybe sometimes Christian men and Hindu women. So the whole concern is about the vilified Muslim man, the aggressive sexual predator who attacks or sexually exploits the Hindu woman. So it's not about Muslim women at all, though they may not clearly say it in the title or and that is very important because the whole way in which the image of Muslim man is created, he is it is very clearly vilified. And I was talking to my husband and he was like, one of the arguments that they usually make that Muslims have this custom of sunta, and that is also sometimes given as a reason why they are more sexually pervert or whatever. So then what is the Muslim woman's image in this whole discourse? The Muslim woman is absent in love jihad and the committee and the whole discourse. But Muslim woman is present in the whole Hindutva discourse, and it is very much connected with this love jihad discourse. One can say it is a replica or a mirror image in some sense, completely turned upside down. Muslim woman is available to be violated sexually. So the immediate example that came to my mind was when Article 370 was abrogated in Kashmir. One of the BJP MLAs came out with a statement that now we can marry, we can have those fair Kashmiri girls, we can marry them. That is what Article 370. So Muslim woman is available for sexual pleasure, but that's not all. She is also available for violation. In fact, she has to be violated in order to teach a lesson to the community, the Muslim community. So, the Gujarat, Mumbai, Bombay, Surat riots, Gujarat carnage, Muzaffarnagar riots, and many other riots, rape of Muslim women is important and is important part of the Hindutva debate as well as the Hindutva whatever, I don't know, we cannot really call it activism, but whatever they do is about violating the Muslim women. So it's the whole idea about whose sexuality is to be protected and whose sexuality is to be violated. There is a whole silence about what happens to the Muslim woman's sexuality. And just to wind up this particular point, if some of you might remember that Savarkar made this very important statement with reference to Shivaji. When Shivaji sent the daughter-in-law of Subedar, the Kalyan Subedar, a Muslim Subedar, and his daughter-in-law, he very gracefully sent her back. She was brought to him, and Savarkar says that this is Sadguna Vikruti. Shivaji should have had her. So this is not something new. In the Hindutva discourse, the Muslim woman's sexuality is available for violation. Is this something which is new? If you look at the sociological research, I was especially referring to Charu Gupta, who has done extensive research on this, and she says that this is not something new. What we see, this whole love jihad thing began somewhere around 2007, but the Hindu Mahasabha and the Arya Samaj, they have a history of creating this kind of division way back in early 20th century. In UP, you can read Charu Gupta's work. She gives very detailed discussion of how same arguments, same kind of debate happened in early part of 20th century with reference to Hindu. Basically it was for Hindu-Muslim division. To give more prominence to communal divide, Hindu-Muslim divide. So basically this is a whole discourse created, this whole idea of conspiracy. Love jihad is an idea of conspiracy, that the Muslims have this conspiracy to, take away Hindu women, maybe increase the numbers of Muslims and whatnot. Now this is a conspiracy, it's very clear also. In 2009 there was a case in Kerala where the division court ordered the CID to conduct a study about what is the situation with reference to these kind of marriages, love jihad kind of marriages. And the statistics is very revealing. There were 21,890 cases of missing girls, and out of those, 229 were interfaith marriages. Out of this 229, only 63 involved conversions. And they might be Muslim, Christian, whatever, conversions. And the DIG very clearly stated that there is no evidence to support the claim that there is any kind of conspiracy where Hindu women are forcibly being converted. Now, but the judgment which came out from the High Court at that point of time is very, very communal, which is available on the net, which the High Court, I forget his name, but he actually said that there is love jihad and there is a need to stop this kind of marriages. Now, coming to the most central argument that I want to make here, as I said, this is not something new. This is an old wine in new bottle. Argument that I would like to make in this connection is there are 2-3 points in which we can, in which way we can connect it with caste. The whole idea of Hindu nation and a Muslim nation emerged in the early 20th century as a response to the anti-caste discourse that was emerging, especially Phule, and there was this new way in which people were looking at caste system, and there was a challenge to the priesthood, the Brahminical priesthood, and the upper caste realized that their control over the social order was slipping away, and one way was to actually join this anti-caste discourse and rectify what wrongs had happened in the history. But the upper caste, the Hindu upper caste, chose not to do that, a large number of them, not all of them, but a large number of them, and they rallied behind this whole idea of a Hindu nation. Now, the whole idea of Hindu nation deceives, especially the lower caste, to believe that there is some kind of an homogeneous Hindu religious identity, which is again a constructed identity. So this whole idea of a Hindu nation, Muslim nation is basically to do with the caste equation and the caste inequalities that we have in this country. And therefore, within this whole caste, Brahminical patriarchal discourse, the lower caste woman's sexuality is not important in the sense that it is available for everyone. So whose sexuality is to be controlled and protected, it is the upper caste woman. And this is very similar to what we see in the Hindu Muslim and the love jihad thing. The Hindu woman's sexuality is to be protected and the Muslim woman's sexuality is to be exploited. And we also know, so therefore, Hathras, Kathua, Bhamri Devi, Mathura, these issues did, lead to certain hue and cry, but they don't become issues in that sense. And suddenly, when a Hindu woman, upper caste woman is violated, it becomes, a very big issue. A large number of conversions in our country have happened because people wanted to escape from the caste system. And so the whole religious question is so much connected with the caste question. And if we don't acknowledge it, if we don't, understand it, we are not really going to do anything about it. And so, the whole discourse on love jihad, is against love. Love has a lot of power. Ambedkar actually talked about how intercaste marriages are important if you want to really annihilate caste. And therefore, interfaith marriages are also very important if you want to, bring equality and, move away from the communal hatred that we have. This exactly is, problematic, and the upper caste, Hindus especially, feel threatened with interfaith marriages. They feel threatened with intercaste marriages. Intercaste marriage, the word they dropped because it was, too difficult to take or, defend. Now, is this the end? Charu Gupta, I would like to quote again. She makes some very important points. She says that this is not the end, and there are a lot of positive things that we see in our country. She says that a large number of young men and women are in fact going into intercaste, interfaith marriages, and many of these women are actually defending their choices in the court, in the police, and she says this is a very positive sign. Another interesting example she mentions is of the Pakistani actor Fawad Khan. Fawad Khan, she says, in 2014 when the Zindagi channel was launched, he has become a heartthrob for all Hindu, Muslim, all the girls. And recently his movie was banned, the Legend of Maula Jat. And then so this is how I look at this whole issue of love jihad. The final statement, this committee, I mainly talked about love jihad and it's the whole discourse around it. But this committee, I find it very interesting. I'm also trying to understand how they are going to manage or coordinate, marriages and families. But it actually looks like a cup. It's like a state-sponsored cup. Actually, you want to enter into people's families' private lives and take decisions for them and decide who will marry who. So I think I'll conclude here. This is how sociologically I would understand the whole issue of love jihad and the committee that is, the state-sponsored cup.
Thank you, Sai, for that and for that lovely articulation of a state-sponsored cup. And also for keeping time. Thank you very much. The next speaker is Irfan Engineer. Many of you know, but I would just like to say that he is the director of Center for Study of Society and Secularism. CSSS works for peace and communal harmony. They document communal riots and monitor communal violence that happens at a day-to-day level. They also conduct workshops with students, communities, and have been incessantly at it. Irfan is going to speak of the pretext under which they brought this was violence against women. So Irfan is going to connect that to violence against women or lack of access actually.
From the bottom of my heart, I congratulate PUCL for organizing this meeting, which has disturbed a lot of us. Maharashtra is known to be a progressive state. From 2014 to 19, when Fadnavis was the chief minister, we didn't see anti-conversion laws, we didn't see the kind of mob lynching elsewhere, and it was because of the progressive nature of the civil society in Maharashtra. But now things are changing, and it is their political compulsion to polarize much viciously than in their first phase. Polarize because a section of Maharashtrians have joined secular forces and they want Hindutva with regional identity, and they want to increase the polarization component, Hindu-Muslim division, Hindu-Muslim polarization. So they will bring various things. They brought this legislation in the name of, or as a response to, supposedly as a response to, what happened to Shraddha Walkar. Now, there are many such incidents of brutal violence on women, domestic violence on women, many. We'll be wasting our time if we try to recall one by one all of them. Sai has given us some examples of Kathua and many other examples she has given. So they are bringing this in the name of protecting women against violence. But is it that kind of legislation? If it was, then they should have brought this legislation, or they should have advocated for this legislation much before as a response to many other violence. In fact, if you look at the figures of National Family Health Survey, there is more domestic violence within Hindu community as compared to within Muslim community. Some, I don't know the exact figure, but something like there are about 26% of Hindu women complained about domestic violence, and 21% of Muslim women complained of domestic violence. If this Muslim male is aggressive, violent towards women, then the percentage of domestic violence within women should have been much higher. Actually, these are anti-conversion laws that they are trying to bring in on one pretext or the other. And why anti-conversion laws? They want to protect the boundaries of communities, consolidate a strong unity of Hindu community. If that is, keeping the caste structure intact. Unity not as equals, but unity as with caste system intact. And that requires an enemy, demonization. And therefore, they keep trying to demonize Muslim male, Muslim community on one pretext or the other. Now, when they are doing this, when they are, how are they protecting the community boundaries? There are three ways that they are trying to do. One is population control. Hindu population should grow, as RSS chief Mohan Bhagwat once said, that Hindu women should produce at least 4 children and more, whereas population of Muslims should be controlled. So UP has talked about that. Assam government, state government has brought in some population control measures in the name of that Muslim Mia culture. Mia community is growing out of hand. So therefore, population control is one thing. Second is prevent inter-religious marriages, which is very important for them because they can't have, and only in one direction. That is, Hindu women should not go outside the community. They should be within the bounds of the community. They should be quote-unquote protected. In the name of protected, they are actually controlled. They need to be controlled. Their choices need to be controlled. Whom they want to marry, whom they want to socialize, whom they want to make friends, that needs to be controlled. And the third measure, the trident, if you can say, the third measure is anti-conversion laws to prevent conversions. How to prevent conversion? They are bringing in all these legislations and now, Hindutva is not the only, Hindu nationalism is not the only ethno-nationalism that wants to protect boundaries of these communities. And it is not their idea. The term love jihad might be new. It has come from, suddenly come from somewhere, it emerged from Kerala. Unfortunately, a Christian priest coined it and Hindutva picked it up. And they started propagating that all interreligious marriages where male is a Muslim and female, the wife is a Hindu, are sort of love jihad. They started propagating this very extensively. But this is not their idea. This is not their, it is not their idea alone. We find this control over interreligious marriage by Hitler and Nazi Germany. They had a legislation which defined, which first of all banned marriages between Aryan race and Jews. And then who is a Jew and who is Aryan? Father, forefather, how many generations back you have to go to look for purity of that race, where interreligious, interracial marriage in that case should not, were banned. The other country that you find is the apartheid South Africa. They had ban on interracial marriages. It was not only ban on interracial marriages, but interracial sexual contacts as well. Even that was highly regulated. In Rwanda, if you see, the whole conflict between the whole genocide against Tutsis, you find the first attack by Hutu racial leaders was on interreligious marriages as well. They attacked not only Tutsis, but all Hutus who married from Tutsis, and interreligious couples were attacked. If you read this book, The Other Side of Silence by Susan Nathan, and she writes about Israel, the relations between Arab and Jews, and how those relations are also regulated. So this is not a new Hindutva idea. It is basically a racial idea, an idea of apartheid. It is anti-democracy, anti-democratic. Now, what do they want to achieve through this? What is the impact? One, they want a strong unity of the community, supposedly a strong unity of the centralized community. You know, Hindu community is very diverse. There are various castes, regions, customs, traditions. There are various sampradayas, various religious movements, and it is so diverse that it is out of control. They want to control this, centralize this authorities around certain sacred symbols, cow or ram, or so it is centralizing the authority within community, and its mirror effect is also on Muslim community, where also, you know, it's trying to, there is a rival call for unity, centralization, Sharia law. This leads into control over women. Both communities then try to control their women and their sexuality, their matrimonial choices, whom they want to make friends, etc., etc. It is homogenizing cultures within Hindu community as well. So it is a measure to do away with diversity. This is based on not only demonizing the other community, both communities, but more so Hindutva, but it is also based on creating a threat of the other, you know, posing the other as a threat to the existence of the community. It is spatially segregating the communities. We already had different colonies, different housing colonies in Mumbai and elsewhere throughout Maharashtra, throughout India actually, mostly in towns in some more or less measure. Now, even the social space is being segregated, you know, spatial segregation of sports. So, for purification of culture, segregation is necessary, because the other otherwise is seen as polluting one's culture. So that is another. India is a wonderful example of not only what some sociologists have said, some historians have said, that Indian communities were always fuzzy communities. You know, you can't categorize. We have a whole session in our diversity workshop about how these fuzzy communities are. You can't categorize people into pure Hindus or pure Muslims. You have this Ganga Jamni Tehzeeb, you have borrowed, you have cultural influence over each other. Now, we are losing those eras, that area. Yeah, so I'll quickly conclude this. Two things. One, this attack is not only attack, of course it is an attack on gender, on the society, on our idea of India. It is also attack on the constitutional concept of freedom and equality. It is an attempt to control women more and more. Not only over their sexuality, but it is even genderizing the social existence and social space, where if the community unity has to be strong, then women have to be obedient because they are seen as disrupting this unity of community. What can we do? I'll just end with this, what can we do? I think there were certain lovely campaigns from which we can learn. I remember 2 campaigns, both, one was in Karnataka and one was in Kerala. The Karnataka campaign, I don't know, it's a bit controversial but innovative. The innovativeness I like, the controversy we can go into, the pink chaddi, you know, the whole debate where it polarized the society, not around religion or community, but around those who are for freedom and those who are against freedom. And the Kerala campaign, both were innovative, publicly kissing and hugging, you know, to express love. I think these campaigns will catch. We need to go to campuses and get young people involved and engaged in these campaigns innovatively. Some innovation, we may, but you know, legal cases and political campaigns are one thing which we must do. But in order to capture the social idea and social mind, I think we'll have to come up with some such innovative which will interest the young people. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Irfan. And I'm sure that the young people will be very, very impressed if older people do it and actually show it. Because I really think that love and intimacy is not about that. And next we have Ratna Pathak Shah. We know her as a versatile actor, comfortable in theatre, film, headquarters, everywhere she's been there, television. We remember many of her roles that we've seen over the years. But there's another side of her which many people in this audience know. And I remember in 1992, I saw Ratna writing down in a relief camp in Mehdi Bazaar. That's my first memory of seeing you face to face. So I think that this work that she has incessantly done, especially around education, transformative education, with the Abacus project, and standing up for issues of justice as and when she feels it is important to do so, and doing it in a climate where many others are not doing it. So we call her here and she's going to speak from her own experiences of doing this.
Hello, thank you for calling me here. I don't know if I'm the right person to be seated with people who are doing work of a sort that I in my profession have never been asked to even think about. But, well, I am married to a person belonging to another religion. 40 years ago, we got married. Of course, many questions were thrown up, all kinds. He's been married before, he has a child, how is he going to earn, look at his face, he wants to be an actor, etc., etc. You can imagine the kind of shock and horror that that produced. Surprisingly, Nasir didn't get it, so obviously something was right about me. But one question was never raised. He's a Muslim. Are you going to convert? This wasn't asked to either of us. And I know of many other such friends, couples, acquaintances who had mixed marriages, and they too were not questioned. I'm talking about us lucky ones, not the ones who had to fight to marry the person of their choice, not the ones who had to oppose and come into conflict with close people like families. I had it very easy. Nasir's mother, who was a Panch Waqta Namazi, a very spiritual, very religious person, never once asked Nasir or me. Nobody from the extended family did. I just thought that's how our country is. We can do what we want. We can marry who we please. I heard stories about how girls were prevented. But I saw so many examples like me that I really did not believe that this was as much of an issue. I can't believe what's happening now, but that's another story. But at that time, I really thought this was the most logical, the most natural thing to do. even if people were not marrying into different communities, people were marrying, religions where people were marrying into different communities all the time. There were friends who were definitely, in fact most of the people around were in mixed marriages of some kind. I remember when my son was very small and the riots were happening in Mumbai. Obviously that must have reflected in some way in school. So he came home one day to ask me, what are we? Are we Hindu or Muslim? So I was completely stumped because it hadn't even occurred to me really. So I told him, you are a Bhelpuri. We are all Bhelpuris. And then he went over a whole list of family friends, all of whom happened to be in mixed marriages. So it turned out that everyone was a Bhelpuri. And my son felt extremely comforted by that thought. Then of course he came down to somebody else in the family who was married to the same, within the same religion and community. And he was astounded by that fact. Can you imagine? The same community, same family, but come on, they got married. So for him, the Bhelpuri idea was a more real idea than the idea of a pristine community. I'm very lucky that my children got a chance to grow up at that time. It was in India where this was not just possible and acceptable, but common. Nothing to make a fuss about, nothing to write home about. This was the country I thought we were trying to become. This was the country that I heard my aunts and my mother and my family speak about. My father's family came from a very religious Hindu background, but nobody tried to dump anything on anyone else in terms of rules and ways of behavior. We were given exposure to all kinds of, mainly through festivals of course, which was more fun than anything else. And then I realized that much later when I moved into college and met more people like me, many more people like me, I realized that, I didn't know very many Muslims. I really didn't. Somehow, I grew up in Parsi colony, which has a whole bunch of colonies all around it. There's Hindu colony right across, there's the whole South Indian settlements in Sian and King Circle. There is the Gujarati settlements of Matunga and Vadala. And all this, so girls from all kinds of communities came to our school and we all sat together and ate together and talked together and found out about each other. But there were no Muslims. I realized that there was almost no contact with Muslims until I went out into the world and went to college. That was the first time I made Muslim friends. My parents had Muslim friends. So we met, in a context where you got with your parents, which is nothing much, as we all know. But as a grown-up, I made so many friends in college who happened to be Muslims and Christians. But again, that was never a topic of conversation. I can't understand sometimes what I'm reading today. The fact that young people are worried about these things, I really cannot understand this. And I can't understand the speed with which this change has occurred. So therefore, it seems to be very deliberately fostered and very deliberately looked after and pushed through. But also, the work I did and the industry that I belong to, again has this very fake sense maybe, which seemed to be perfectly real to me at that time and common everywhere. People from all communities work together, eat together. There are all kinds of hierarchies, of course, but not this. This was never part of the conversation anywhere. Most of the fighters, for example, in the film industry are Muslims, and they all keep roza. A lot of the dancers are Muslims, they all keep roza. And the whole group together, the entire set, made it possible for them to do that work, keep their roza, and it was just part of the whole thing. Like, how many Maharashtrians and Gujaratis do uppas, so there was always something organized for uppas. These were things that we just took for granted and we just, adjusted and worked around. So much so that I came to believe that this is the country on the whole, by and large. Everyone is like this. Obviously, that's not true. And as one has gone along and one is seeing what is happening around, it definitely was a mistake on my part to imagine that that is a common condition. And yet, it was not deliberately disruptive in the way it is today. That, of course, is the really, really big issue that crops up. And for a person like me, for whom religion is not terribly important, it's something that adds a little color to my life, but it's not something that I need as a way to live my life. I went to a school which was run by a Parsi trust, and we learned a lot about Zoroastrianism, of course, as part of the school, and of course, because so many of my friends were Parsis. And I came across their wonderful axiom, Humta, Hukta, and Pushvarta. I'd forgotten the terms. I had to ask a Parsi friend to remind me of them. But they rang just the right bell. Good thoughts, good words, good deeds. That's what I childishly, naively thought religion meant to almost everyone. And it's only later that one figured that that's not quite how things are. But there were these Hunta, Hukta, and Bushvarta. These are, sorry, did I translate that? That translates to good thoughts, good words, and good deeds. I said that. Sorry. But they helped me to find a code by which I could live my life. And I was lucky that I came across another human being who also believed in the same code, and a family that also extended their affection and their understanding to all the differences that I brought into the mix. We have, of course, all grown and improved because of that, and I can't understand why anyone would want to miss this idea of exposure to another way of living, another way of thinking, another way of being. It only enriches oneself. I can't understand the need for separation. But that need exists, and as the speakers before me have said, and I'm sure the speakers after me will say, there has to be something that we can do to counter it. I wish I could say that the kind of work that I'm doing is likely to lead to be a counter. Most of the people in my profession are unwilling to grapple with a lot of what is happening around us. That's also natural because it is really disturbing. We don't know how to tell disturbing stories in any case. We like a dream world. We like to pretend that everything's rosy, even when we go out of the theatre and see all the rubbish outside. We just like to pretend that everything's wonderful. And this idea of everything's wonderful has translated onto not just the Bollywood, but into the whole country. Everything is fine. And we have bought into the idea, and yet I feel that there are almost the same number of people I knew earlier, the same number of voices I heard, sometimes many more, because there are many more educated Indians today than there ever were. There are many more Indians who are willing to use their mind and make up their own minds and make choices. Unfortunately, we don't sound like we are very many, but I know we are. Also, that I'm almost 100% certain that hate is very difficult to sustain. Disruption is very difficult to sustain. At the moment, we are seeing a wonderful example of all of that. But remember, in 1939, if somebody would have told Hitler that in the next 7 years you're going to be a really bad, you were going to be in a very bad mess, would he have believed it? I don't think so. And that's not so long ago, only 100 years ago, and things have become faster, as we all know. So we can only hope that speed in this area will be super fast.
Thank you, Ratna. There is some hope in the changing world that is bringing us closer, further apart, and moving at paces that we don't understand. Our next speaker is Utkarsha Rupwate. Utkarsha is the Honorary Secretary of Kusumtai, Chaudhary, Mahila Kalyani and Bal Kalyani. She is an educator, she is a permanent trustee of Bahujan Shikshan Sangh, and she is the General Secretary of the Maharashtra Pradesh Congress Committee and a member of the Maharashtra State Women's Commission. And she will speak of the progressive traditions of Maharashtra and what the Commission actually did, thanks to her initiative, vis-a-vis this GR, and also ways forward, I'm sure.
Thank you so much, Chayanika ji. First and foremost, I thank the PUCL for inviting me here. I am so tense because I'm the youngest in the panel. Maybe the most, I don't know, maybe the most inexperienced also in comparison to the work that these people have done. I've grown up seeing these people, so I'm really tense. I mean, I have Patwardhan sir here, I have Shrimantini ji here, and seen so many movies of Ratna ji, and read so much from his books and his father's books. So it's a little pressurized situation for me. Also because I don't know which part of the society I represent today. Now, in my introduction, she has given so many things that I do. So I'm a little confused phase कि मैं किसके side से बात करूँ. But then I feel that is what we all are brought up to कि आप सब चीजें देखो and what Buddha says मध्यम मार्ग, जो भी आपको सही लगता है, the middle way forward, you choose it and you go ahead. So here I speak today not only as a Congress party worker, not only as member of the IOG, of the Maharashtra State Commission, not only as a member of the civil society who has been working since the day I'm born maybe, because I was born into a family that had these traditions with them, but also as a product of an intercaste, interreligious marriage, and someone who has done an intercaste, interreligious marriage and also given birth to a product of that marriage. So many variety of experiences behind me, but I'll try to keep it a little time framed and expectations जो मेरे से है, I'll try to keep it alive. As I mentioned, as she mentioned, I would like to press on the fact that if this kind of a GR or government resolution was passed in some other state, maybe we would not have reacted to it in such a way that we are reacting to it because it is Maharashtra. Now Maharashtra has a very different history of social reformations, and we all know of all the Mahapurush and the Mahaladies that we have been taught in school or have experienced in our own lives. Right from Chhatrapati Shivaji Maharaj to Fatima B, Ahilyabai Holkar, and the list is on and on. So that is the main reason when Maharashtra has such a rich tradition of social reformations and social reforms. When such legislation or a GR is banged on us without any preface or without any purva tayari, this is how people like us who are sensitive to these issues react. This also makes me a little worried because not only reformers, but we also had people like saints. Santa Parampara of Maharashtra has been very rich, and we still take so much of energy from all of them. So this makes us more worried. Maybe young generation like me doesn't read or know much about them, but I think it is high time we get a little bit from them so that we understand why this disturbance is caused in our mental spaces. Also, Maharashtra has been home or pioneer to different movements, be it the Sri Mukti movement, be it the Dalit rights movement or the tribal rights movement, or even now of late the third gender or whatever you call it, the gay movement, the lesbian movement, whatever terms we use. So we have been a promoter, a protector of free thought, of how we challenge traditions or the systems that have been imposed on us since ages. So that's why the setting in Maharashtra is a little different, and that's how people like us get a little disturbed with what is happening. All of this said and done, also we are working in one framework called the, some people might like it, not like it, but we still have the Indian Constitution with us, and that's how we are lucky that we are within this framework. And with all this history, not only in Maharashtra but all over India, we do have the Indian Constitution as a framework within which we still exist, and hopefully will continue to exist if not another bomb is thrown on us by the current regime. So so many articles, the fundamental, school mein to sabne padha hai, some part of law everybody knows, part 3 of the Indian Constitution is fundamental rights and part 4 is the fundamental duties and blah blah blah. But of that, the most important I feel is Article 19, which gives us exactly what we are doing right now. I have the freedom to speech, expression, come together. I have the freedom to take any religion I want now. Of course, some states are passing laws like, anti-conversion laws and stuff like that. But then, this is the basic framework within which our country works, and we all function, the Indian Constitution. Also, our Constitution gives us the right to constitutional remedies. So, if I feel any of these rights are violated, I have my Indian Penal Code, I have so many laws that are there to protect my rights. So then, why is the need for us to get such a GR or such a decision all of a sudden without any research, without any data? So as I said, I might sound a little confused because I am speaking on behalf of all these agencies that I work with or I am a part of. But the first thing that I got to my mind when I saw this GR was what made them do this. Now, my prior speakers have spoken at length of how the genesis have happened, of how the term love jihad came in and how the cases are being selectively, highlighted by the media or being taken up by political parties. But is there any data? Is there any study that reveals that we need such a mechanism in place? So I just gave an example. I mean, if I have a data, I have 6 guests coming in the evening, I will make extra rotis in the morning. This is common sense. So if I know there is some data coming in, these many women or these many men have suffered because of this, then I need to make some, kind of a buffer for this or some kind of a committee in place that can take care of these individuals. So as an IOG member or as a member of the civil society, I haven't come across any concrete data from any registered body or a proper research agency that supports this thing that, intercaste, interreligious marriages have such huge number of victims which are of that nature. On the contrary, as an IOG member, whatever cases that we see on a daily basis, the number is huge and increases every day. But one observation that I have made as a member dealing with these cases is that maximum number of cases in which women have gone through violence or treachery or have husbands marrying 4 other women are from the same religion. One, not only religion, from the same caste, not only the same caste, the same gotra, sub-gotra and whatnot, I don't know. So that this has nothing to do, according to me. If there is any scientific data, I am ready to accept or study it. But according to what I have known till now in my 37 years of age, I don't see any data supporting this move. That's one. Second, as I said earlier, there are enough agencies in place, right from the Indian Penal Code to something like an IO, which can cater to these cases, which have a mechanism. If there is something going wrong, we are there to take care of this and we can give you justice if there is anything going wrong with this interfaith marriages. So what is the need for us to do this? In the GR itself, if you read the GR, I'm not sure how many of you have read it because it's in Marathi, but the GR itself is so rosy. All of a sudden, a system which is excluding itself, removing itself from the social sector, removing itself from the social security sector, from the education sector, from scholarships, from the expenditure on education, expenditure on special cells, is all of a sudden worried about families. I mean, I really didn't understand what it is because then, I'll just read one sentence. If you understand Marathi, most of you. स्वतःच्या कुटुंबियांशी संपर्कात नसलेल्या मुली, महिला आणि त्यांच्या आई वडिलांच्या सहाय्याने त्यांची माहिती घेणे. So I mean, all of a sudden you're worried about this and only about muli and mahila. And as mentioned before, it is usually to do with the muli mahila of a particular religion, and the entire rosy language then continues. So the entire reason why this GR has been bought is very ambiguous. Even the committee members, I'm not sure whether they know. And in fact, you know, I don't know whether I should say this here, but it is a closed door meeting. One of the members, okay, so I think we will share it later, whatever. So there are members of this committee who have a little different background. I do not doubt their ability or their credibility or their power to maybe, you know, really get this going and really stop the violence. But there are a little preludes to this which we need to understand if we need to understand why this is in place. Second point in this entire thing is this is not the first time it has been tried officially. वैसे तो attempts बार-बार होते रहते हैं, but we, you know, keep them back. But this time, this is not the first official attempt. In 2017, a similar committee of this kind has been tried to be made, and the Honorable WCD Minister, who is right now, was the member of the committee even then. But we do not know what happened with the committee, what was their finding, or what was the work that they did. So we really do not know why it was not taken forward, because all these years we did not really hear about anything of that sort. So this is not the first attempt at the government level to get something like that by a particular, I don't know, a thought processed political party. So you know, I'm using my words very carefully because I do not want to sound colored in any way, but still. So this is not the first attempt, that's what I'm trying to say. Now all of a sudden we feel the need to get it, and without any data, without any study, that's another point of my worry. So when I tried to find out, you know, any reason, any communication regarding this with the different stakeholders. So I do not think any of the NGOs were consulted. At least the hundreds that I know, none of them have been consulted while doing this. The State Commission for Women is mandatorily to be consulted when you are doing anything related to women. Abhi isme kaha hai mahila aur muli. So that means by default they have to consult the State Commission. But officially no communication or consultation was done with us. Even that the chairperson has also mentioned in her press release whenever we did it. So all these, this prelude makes it more conspicuous कि क्या है exactly, why is this? अभी क्यों है क्या है ये तो हम सब जानते हैं, but still. And after this happened, as I said, as I also represent the IO, a lot of our senior members started, you know, talking on the group and personal messages and this and that. So we decided we take this forward, and as we have a little access to the ministry and stuff like that, so we did that. And we also received some written complaints from Mahila Raj Satta Andolan, because IO can take suo moto recognizance of things, but once you have a little documentary support with you, it becomes easier. So that's how we started this process, and people like Sri Mukti Andolan and them, they also forwarded some emails, you know, contesting this or agitating against this. And that's how we then processed our first letter to the WCD minister. This was during the winter session, and we expected some reply, but we are still in waiting, and there is no reply from the WCD minister. Now the next step as IO is that we do send a reminder or call the WCD officials to, you know, come before the IO, because IO has civil court-like powers. So we can really summon them and ask them as to what is the stand or what is your say about this GR. This is our next plan of action. Of course, I thank all the civil society organizations who have been, you know, really rallying this point, and they did not stop at the meeting. They did have we had a huge protest in Dadar station. So basically, the end of my entire discussion with you guys today is that it is not alone that people like us will have to fight. We have to have a united fight against such things that come, you know, deliberately, but all of a sudden are banned on us. So as a way forward, I look at this that as IO, we will definitely speed up the process of, again, resending a letter and getting some response, official response from the committee or the WCD minister. As civil society or as normal citizens who feel concerned about this, I feel we need to have some process in where we stay in communication and in ways in which we can create awareness about it. A public pressure definitely will help, especially the young voters. Their say will definitely help, especially with elections impending in Mumbai. Even that will help. So, as an insider, I'm telling you this, that we do need to visit the campuses with whatever campaign we need to do. So, but we also need to make our next generation, because now I feel I'm a little older, so the next generation, aware of this is going to impinge them the most. And this is why they need to talk about this or need to understand about this and then, maybe decide there. Do not force anything on them, let them decide, but at least understand what this is going to mean to you. So today, they might come and say, so till now it was like, ye mat khao, ye mat pehno, and now abhi, idhar mat raho, ye tumhara ghetto ka, so Mumbai is known to have such ghettos. And now also they will say that, isko shaadi karo, isko mat karo, iske saath live-in mein raho, uske saath mat raho. So this is how it's gradually, slow poisoning ke jaisa, it is getting into us. And somewhere as sensible citizens of this country to protect the cultural ethos and the political, the entire equality that we talk about and the bada gappas that we do about Bharat Desh Mahan, Ganga Zamani, Tehzeeb and whatnot, we need to really think about this seriously and come together and converge our actions. Because, if I have 1 minute extra, my father always quoted a story which was in Marathi. Majority of you understand Marathi here? Okay, so I do it in Hindi. तो एक पुरानी टाइम की स्टोरी है ये, तो एक जब कलेक्टर बड़ा एक ऑफिसर होता था और सरपंच होता था गांव का, तो एक बार वो सरपंच को कलेक्टर ने न्योता दिया कि कल आप आइए और मेरे साथ बैठिए, मुझे कुछ काम है आपसे। तो बड़ा सरपंच खुश हुआ, गरीब आदमी था, फिर भी जाके एक जोड़ी कपड़े सिलाया, he stitched new entire new set of clothes। और जब टेलर ने कपड़े दिए, कल सुबह जाने हैं, तो he realized कि जो पैंट है वो 1 फीट लंबी हो गई है। So that's when he requested his mother कि मम्मी मेरी पैंट थोड़ी सी लंबी होगी, आप छोटी करके दे दो। So the mother said, अरे I can't see, मैं कैसे करूँगी? तो उसने मम्मी को बोला ठीक है रहने दो। बीवी के पास गया, बीवी कुछ काम कर रही थी, उसको बोला, रिक्वेस्ट किया, प्लीज इसको थोड़ा सा कट करके सिला दो तो मैं ठीक ठाक पहन के चला जाऊँ। बीवी भी नहीं कर पाई, शी वॉज बिजी इन हर वर्क। बच्ची के पास गया, बच्ची को बोला प्लीज करके दे दो, नहीं पापा मैं तो पढ़ाई में बिजी हूँ। तो बेचारा निराश होकर सो गया, उसने पैंट टंगा दी। रात को मम्मी उठी दवाई लेने के लिए, उसने देखा पैंट है, उसने थोड़ा सा गाली दिया बहू को, वो मैंडेटरी होता है अपने में कि यार मेरा बेटा जा रहा है एंड शी इज नॉट डूइंग एनीथिंग अबाउट इट। सो उसने कट किया, सिला दिया और टंगा दिया। फिर थोड़ी देर के बाद बेटी उठी पढ़ने के लिए, शी सॉ द पैंट, शी टुक द पैंट, कट किया, सिला दिया, रख दिया। अगेन फिर बीवी उठी सुबह चाय पानी नाश्ते के लिए, she took the pant, cut it again and she hung it up। बच्चा उठा, वो बेचारा सरपंच उठा सुबह नहा धो के रेडी होने के लिए, when he tried to put on the pant, it was almost half chaddi, so the pink chaddi, half chaddi kind of a thing। The moral of the story is, if we do not converge our efforts, अपने सारे efforts की full pant की short pant होने में time नहीं लगेगा, and this is their modus operandi at large। Whoever is trying to unite, whoever is trying to come together for a cause, उनको कैसे तोड़ा जाए, मरोड़ा जाए, how to keep them separate। But please, we need to have that entire full-length pant. So with all our consciences and all our, yes, with all our whatever energies we have, whatever agencies we work with. Now I don't know मैं कितने दिन इस पद पे रहूँगी because I'm from Congress. And अभी तक तो महिला आयोग is still intact, but the kind of news that you might be seeing of recent regarding the महिला आयोग, I think soon हम पे भी पैंट कटने का होने वाला है। But till the time I'm in position here and whatever can be done on my behalf will be definitely done. That's all I can say on this day. Thank you very much for inviting me here.
Thank you, Utkarsha. And I think I have a new way to look at the half chaddies that we can. Finally, last but not the least, Mihir Desai, Senior Counsel of High Court and President of PUCL. He is our fallback person for everything. I think it's an occupational hazard of being the legal voice in courts and outside against this regime. Mihir.
And I think we've had listened to some very, very fascinating talks, all the four of them actually. And what is left for me to do is, of course, talk about law. So I'll talk about that. First of all, we must understand that, very briefly speaking, the government resolution, the committee which has been set up, which is various people in it, etc., etc. I won't go into the details of that, but the declared purpose of the committee is to A, gather facts of interfaith now, because it was earlier intercaste interfaith, now it's interfaith marriages, especially, as Utkarsha also mentioned, from women. Okay. Why only from women? It's not clear on the face of it, but obviously the underlying purpose being that they are the targets, they have no agency, and that's why let's go and convince them that they've done some mistake, some blunder, and the parents of the woman. I mean, that's the other thing, that you have to meet the parents of the women and the women. And then, after all these studies, whatever study, how they are going to identify, who they are going to meet, etc., we don't know. And I think after all these studies done, they will make recommendations to the state government. And I'm reasonably certain that the state government will come out with a anti-conversion law like it exists in 11 other states. They are just ensuring that, unlike in many other states, here they have a facade of a study which ultimately leads to a conclusion that, I mean, when somebody challenges the law in court, they can say that, look, I mean, it's not something we thought overnight. We had a study, and that study is wonderfully done, and this is how we have come to the conclusion that we need this law. So this is a precursor to a law which will come. But we need to ensure that this itself does not happen, because if this happens, the law will happen. Okay? So we need to ensure that this does not happen. Now, when we talk about anti-conversion laws, as it has been mentioned earlier, they are there in 11 states at the moment. During British India, we did not have any anti-conversion law, except in some of the princely states. Bikaner, Jodhpur, Patna, etc. Some of the states had anti-conversion laws, but British India itself never had an anti-conversion law. Article 25 of the Constitution talks not only about practice of religion, but also propagation of religion. It is in 1967 that for the first time an anti-conversion law is brought in. And that was for the first time brought in Odisha, 1967. Now remember one thing, that all the 11 laws which have been brought in are essentially being brought in by either the BJP or by the Jansangh or a coalition of Jansangh and some other parties, or BJP and other parties only, except in Himachal Pradesh, which was brought in by the Congress government. And that also we need to bear in mind. Okay. Anyway, so 67 you had the Madhya Pradesh law. 68 you, 67 you had the Orissa law. 68 you had the Madhya Pradesh. These laws, I mean, also another thing which one must bear in mind is that two aspects. All the laws which are anti-conversion do not say that conversion is banned. They don't say that. They never say that. You can't say that under the Constitution. because I have a right to conscience, so I have a right to change my religion. So you can't say that conversion per se is bad. So none of the laws say that. But they make conversion such a difficult task that it becomes virtually impossible to convert. Even if I want to convert to another religion, it becomes, I mean, forget whether some priest has told me or some mullah has told me, but if I want to convert, I cannot convert because of the practical way in which the law operates. Not because the law says that conversion is bad. It never says. None of the laws ever say that. Second thing is, these laws are styled, or all of them are called Freedom of Religion Acts. Okay? Each one of them is called Freedom of Religion Act, except, at least Adityanath, you must give him credit too, for he at least calls it an anti-conversion law. It's in the title. Okay? All other laws are called Freedom of Religion laws. Okay? Third thing, from the beginning, from 67, all laws provide punishment if you convert in a manner contrary to what the law provides. And in all laws from 67 onwards, if the conversion has happened of a scheduled caste or scheduled tribe or of a woman, then the punishment is double. Okay? So from the beginning, okay, there is no agency given either to scheduled caste, scheduled tribe or women. Okay? And that's throughout the acts, throughout the laws. This is not something which has happened now. This is from 67. 67, 68, laws were challenged in Supreme Court. Supreme Court said, now remember also one more thing you must bear in mind, that 67, 68 laws said that conversion by allurement, fraud, force is bad. Okay? Force, fraud, allurement is bad. Widely defined terms can be interpreted in various ways. Divine displeasure is allurement, you know that, or force or something like that, so widely defined. But the earlier laws did not require any prior permission. Okay? Orissa law did not even require intimation to be given of conversion. Madhya Pradesh law said that after you convert, the priest must intimate to the district magistrate. Intimate, not take permission, not prior permission. After you convert, you intimate. If you do not, then that will amount to, a crime, a criminal offense. That was the limited extent to which the laws were. They were challenged in Supreme Court. Supreme Court said nothing wrong with it. And that's where in 1977-78, the Supreme Court said nothing wrong with this. These laws, for the next 35 years, nothing happened. Except there was a law which was brought in Arunachal Pradesh in 78, but which has never been implemented. And there is a movement there that why are you not implementing, which is a different kind of movement. Okay. So from that time till 2002, that is from 78 to 2002, no new laws came of conversion, of anti-conversion. 2002, Tamil Nadu comes out for the first time with an anti-conversion law. But in 2006, they withdraw it. And it's withdrawn in Tamil Nadu, there is no law, no anti-conversion. 2003, Modi blossoms in Gujarat. So you have the first anti-conversion law of the present kind, which is brought in Gujarat in 2003. That law is sought to be amended by Modi in 2006 by saying that Hindus are defined to include Jains and Buddhists. So the Jains protest. And so that amendment is withdrawn by Gujarat government because they have to placate the Jains. So that is withdrawn. From that time onwards, then for the next couple of years there is nothing. 2006 there is a Chhattisgarh law. 2000 there is a Chhattisgarh law, which is because of the bifurcation of Madhya Pradesh. Correct, they adopted the law. 2006 there is a major amendment. And the major, then the major changes start happening after 2014. So in 2017 you have a law in Jharkhand, 2018 Uttarakhand, 2019 Himachal Pradesh. You see, Himachal Pradesh already had a law in 2007 brought in by Congress, but it was not sharp enough, harsh enough. So 2019 there is a new law. 2021 MP, which had a 68 law, repeals 68 law and brings in a new law which is much, much harsher. Then you have Karnataka, UP 21, Rajasthan 21. Okay. So all these states have had laws. Gujarat repeals the earlier law and brings in major amendments, etc., etc. So you have 11 states. Very briefly, in 3 or 4 minutes, I'll just tell you what are the major changes which are there from the earlier laws, 67, 68, 78 laws, to the ones which are now existing. Because there are about 8 major things which they have changed from the earlier approach of anti-conversion law. It's okay? Anti-conversion law to what is, how things are today. First of all, the punishment has been enhanced considerably. Earlier, for instance, Madhya Pradesh, Orissa, 67, 68 laws, punishment was okay, 1 month imprisonment or fine kind of thing, you know. Now there is a minimum punishment. 2 years, 3 years, varies from state to state, I won't go into the variation. 2 years, 3 years, minimum punishment. Maximum punishment enhanced to 10 years. If women scheduled caste, scheduled tribe, then double, you know. So that's the kind, so that's one thing which is there. Second thing is, earlier, that is in 67 and 68, the priest who did not communicate to the authorities that somebody has been converted, communication, would be punished. Now, even the person who gets converted will be punished. Okay? So if I convert myself, okay, without following the procedure prescribed, then I'll be put in jail. Okay? That's the second thing. Third thing is, not only me and the priests, but those who participate in the conversion. Okay? I mean, now you go to a marriage this thing. Something is happening, somebody is getting converted, you don't even know. So you will be in jail. Okay? So that's one thing, that is minimum punishment. I have 2 more minutes? Okay. Second thing is, now some of the laws specifically talk about conversion by marriage. Okay? Conversion by marriage, it's very, see, the law is so vaguely defined that in some of the laws it appears as if you convert by marriage, then itself is an offense. Some of the laws it appears as if conversion by marriage through allurement fraud is an offense. Okay. Very difficult. Gujarat High Court judges, in one of the days when they got up from the right side of the bed, I guess, they stayed this part of the act which said, which was being given an interpretation that if you convert and marry, two are together, then by itself it's an offense, whether there is force, fraud, etc. Gujarat High Court said, no, you can't do that. Only you have to show that there is force, fraud, etc., etc. Yeah. So that's the second thing, conversion by marriage. The third thing is, earlier, 67, 68, there was no question of reconversion. Yeah. Now they say, the laws say, that if you reconvert to your original religion, okay, it's not an offense. Okay? What is an original religion differs from state to state. Some of the states says that if you go back, if you reconvert to your ancestral religion, and how long up to the apes the ancestry goes back is not defined. Okay? That's not defined. But if you revert back to your, this is what Dharvapsi kind of thing. That is the thing. So that is categorically mentioned that does not amount to conversion, so that is not an offense. Okay? Fourth thing, earlier organizations, okay, who helped people to convert, or maybe who just talked about other religions, etc., were not criminalized. Now, any trust or any organization which does this, okay, is criminalized, their registration can be cancelled, and the trustees, etc., can be put behind bars. So that's the fourth thing. Fifth thing, earlier, as I said, Orissa did not even require intimation of conversion. Madhya Pradesh required intimation subsequent to conversion by the priest to some authority, not a permission. Okay. Now, most of the law says that intimation, it's not a question of intimation. Before you convert, 1 month in advance or 2 months in advance, you have to intimate to the district magistrate. The district magistrate will then have a police inquiry. Okay? Police inquiry will then decide whether this is, I mean, that is if you survive the Bajrang who attacks you before the police come to inquire. But the police inquiry will basically go into it. After the inquiry, you will be given permission, and only then can you convert. Okay, so this is the trend of the new laws. There are some changes here and there, some differences here and there. I'm just giving a broad idea. So you require not only to give intimation, and intimation not only has to be given by the priest 60 days in advance, 30 days in advance, but also by the person who is converting 30 days or 60 days in advance. Okay. So this is the most striking feature of these laws, because it's very clear that if I give intimation to a district magistrate that I want to convert, okay, I am going to be lynched tomorrow. It's very clear. So that's the sixth thing is conversion. Okay. Earlier it was not okay. Conversion किया, fine भरो, ठीक है. अभी आपने intimate नहीं किया, fine भरो, हो गया काम. Now the law says that conversion will be treated as void. Okay. And the marriage will also be treated as void. Okay. Finally, seventh thing is burden of proof. Okay? Of proving that I was not converted or I did not convert somebody by allurement or force or fraud is on me. Okay? So I have to cite the scriptures to prove to the authorities that I mean, how many Hindus can cite Ramayana or Vedas, I don't know, but so the burden is on me. If there is an allegation that I have converted or I have myself converted or I have converted somebody else, then it's for me to prove that I have not used force, allurement, etc., etc. And lastly, the definition of allurement, etc. has broadened. Earlier it was okay, you give some gifts, etc. Even promise to make you, to give you admission in a good school, okay, is defined as allurement. So, so allurement definition is made very, very wide. So anything is allurement, virtually. So while the laws existed in 67, 68, while the laws were challenged and upheld in 78, the nature, the content of the law has completely changed in respect of the new laws. They have completely changed. They completely criminalized conversion, where it becomes virtually, while they don't say that you can't convert, the manner in which the laws are drafted, the manner in which they are acted upon at the ground level, it's impossible to, for me to exercise my freedom of conscience if I want to change my religion. That's the reality. Okay. So that's what we are dealing with now, and that's what, unfortunately, in Maharashtra there is no law like that up till now. But as I said, I personally see this as a precursor to such a law, and in view, and I think we need to oppose this. We have to nip this in the bud. Okay. Otherwise, this will come as a law sooner or later. Thank you very much.
For the sake of marriage also happen because the Special Marriage Act requires the notice period. So let's not forget that many a times it is under coercion because families are not accepting you, that you are running away, getting converted and getting married, and that is also being cut off. So it's not like love in the times of hate is very difficult. I can assure you. Maybe we stop getting married, that's a good option, but beyond that I don't know what we can do. And I think that's a very liberating option. But I would advocate it also in the innovative campaigns that Irfan is suggesting. I would put that fully front. But now we open for comments and questions.
This one includes relations, not just marriage.
Yeah, it's living relation also.
Better still don't live together. Okay. Open for comments, questions, ideas.
No, meaning if you declare that you're an atheist, what happens? If you declare that I was born a Hindu, I was born whatever, but I'm an atheist now.
Who converted you to become an atheist?
So is there a way out?
No. I mean, you can not practice any religion if you don't want to. That's a choice you have. Okay. So but as various speakers said, this law is essentially to ensure that people don't convert to Islam and Christianity. The purpose of this law is that, whatever these laws are, the purpose is not so much, they are not bothered about a few atheists here and there.
I'm saying as a strategy, if we are talking about kissing, if we just get everybody to declare themselves atheists, whatever they want to practice at home, they do.
They don't want to.
I want to say something in reply to that.
Sure. Does this go?
The rich tapestry that Hinduism is, it contains also atheism. So if you are an atheist, then you are a Hindu atheist. Other than that, you are trapped into the religion you are born into. You may believe, you may not believe, but you are in the...
I just want to know what the implications are. I mean, how are we looking at the Special Marriage Act in the context? This what? What?
Can you stand up and speak?
Yeah, I just wanted to know what, from Mihir actually, what do you see in the relationship of all these trends to the Special Marriage Act, and what are we looking at there?
Well, as Chayanika mentioned earlier, that Special Marriage Act is of course there, it's a secular law, etc., etc. The only problem is it requires 1 month's notice if you want to get married. And a lot of people fear that during that 1 month many things can happen. Therefore, there are a lot of challenges happening in courts right now. In fact, UP High Court has struck down that notice, Allahabad High Court has struck down that 1 month's notice, and the matters are now pending in the Supreme Court.
Displayed publicly.
Yeah, on the board of
on the board.
Yeah. So, and in Supreme Court a number of matters, so they were there actually yesterday, quite a few matters. They were also in the context of gay marriages, etc. But this is how it was, in the sense that, so there are challenges to that 1 month's compulsory notification. That is it. Come here.
I have two questions. What about conversion to Buddhism? How do these laws look at that? Is it different? And in all the states where these conversion laws have been there, how in practice, how has that worked when it comes to conversion to Buddhism?
Irfan, you want to say? Why don't you?
In fact, the Gujarat law that Mihir talked about said that if you convert from one sect to another of same religion, Catholics to Protestant, and in that context, that the Jains, Buddhists were considered as sect of Hindus. And that is what was protested against. So, I think if you want to convert to Buddhism, I don't see any major problem being raised by the state. But of course, if the trend grows, then even that, they don't want even Buddhists as well. So now, these are these are considered, yeah.
Right, easy food, low.
Is it possible to marry under the Special Marriages Act and not convert if you give that 1 month's notice period? Is that permissible?
Yeah, it is. You don't have to convert. That's why the Special Marriage Act was there. But the problem is 1 month's notice. Not only 1 month's notice, you have to display the notice publicly. So these maternal elements, they continuously look at it. They go and inform the parents. They trouble the couple, and they have done it. They have done it in many cases, and that's why.
Hello.
Yes. Special Marriage Act, but also, like say for example in the Catholic Church, you can have a Hindu marrying a Christian, and you don't really need to convert. So it would, I mean, of course, there are bans read in the church where you have to, 1 month prior, there are 3 announcements made and 3 consecutive Sundays that the person is going to get married. But otherwise, there is no kind of restriction. Would that be also, I mean, there is no conversion, so would that be a problem? This is not part of the Special Marriage Act, yeah.
Well, you see, the law is very fluid. Okay, so ordinarily, what you are saying should not be a problem. Ordinarily, me eating beef in Maharashtra should not be a problem. Okay? But we are living in extraordinary times. Okay. So what will suddenly be seen as an offence, what will suddenly not be seen as an offence, is something which we cannot. It's difficult to do.
I have a concern about the approach to the committee and, demanding that if there is data, substantive data, and then we will think about it. But we know very well that they can come up with that data. They know very well that they can come up with data that shows that there is coercion. So in our strategy to confront the committee, we should not talk about that so-called evidence as to...
So that was not a formal reply of the IO. I was explaining that in my understanding.
Yeah.
So that's because as a student of social sciences or maybe something, as a study, we do find some data and then do something concrete on it. So that was a personal observation, not as a...
Yeah. So
we are not, definitely not.
We cannot take that.
No, we are not doing that. Basically, what the thought line that was mentioned later on by Sir is basically, iske through we get the data, and that's how the prelude to the law comes.
Quality of the data is can be questioned, but
no. But suppose in case there are thousands of Hindu women who want to marry and convert to Islam or Christianity. What is the problem? Just because there are less than 1,000, you're worried, and if there are 1,000, then you're not worried, and you're worried about the instance. That is not our point, right? It's the agency of the human being that is the point that we have, or the basic structure of the constitution. That's the point we have. So we don't get into that argument of show us the data.
I also wanted to just point out, Irfan mentioned about the origin of love jihad. It was not just a stray mishap kind of thing. In Kerala, you have a whole section of Christians who are worse than the Hindus in their fanaticism. In fact, there's a study of what's called Krisangis. And not only love jihad, narco jihad, spit jihad, these are the kind of fake narratives being spread from churches, the pulpits of churches. This whole case which we talked about was of some section of the clergy saying that large sections of young Christians are becoming going to fight in Afghanistan and things. But the actual issue is also that many are leaving the folds of the church. So this is way of terrorizing a community also. So we have to also, you know, they may be targeting Christians in some states, but where Christians are in a sizable majority in a state like Kerala, their role is certainly not anything to be proud about.
I want to ask you really about whether the right to privacy, which is supposed to be now a fundamental right, why does it not come up when a committee like this is formed? Very clear. It's a very clear violation.
No, you are right. Even when Supreme Court has been hearing some of the cases, like Hadia's case, okay, where the question was whether she had a right to privacy to get married, etc., etc., or make her own choices of who she wanted to get married to, or how she wanted to, or whether she wanted to convert or not. Right to privacy becomes a central issue. But as you remember in Hadia's case, at the end of the day, they asked the NIA also to investigate. Okay, so even in this, yes, right, but right to privacy, somebody has to say that I don't want to give you material. That look, don't ask me any questions, I don't want to give you. Because right to privacy is seen even up till now as an individual right. So that individual has to say that my right is violated. In that, I mean, now it's being expanded, etc., etc., and I therefore feel that this committee's formation can itself is susceptible to challenge. That's what I feel.
What happens if people get married under the Special Marriages Act, say that they're not going in for a conversion, but in fact, because of the conditions of living in close proximity with the family, they are following the religious customs, but they had not formally converted? What happens?
Yeah. I mean, legally, see, there are two things. You know, I mean, every meeting, I have to say this, but okay, I don't mind saying it. There are two things. One is what the law says, and second is what the law does. Okay. One is, I mean, we keep on talking about our great constitution and all that, but all these laws are brought under the great constitution. So let's be very clear about it. That it's because all these documents are fluid documents. They can have a radically new meaning, radically different meaning from one person to another. So you can have a CAA NRC despite the constitution. Okay? You can have anti-conversion despite the constitution. Okay? You can have 370 despite it being part of the constitution. So what you are saying is right. That what will happen? I mean, it's very difficult. Legally, are you doing anything wrong? My answer is no. Does it mean you won't be lynched? I don't know. Let me put it that way.
In fact, in Special Marriage Act, you don't have to give any reason why you are marrying a person of another caste. Whether you are converting or you are not converting, legally you don't have to answer this. You just have to appear before the registrar after giving 1 month's notice that I take so-and-so as my husband and so-and-so as my wife. That's it. Finish. Over. With 3 witnesses.
I actually just wanted to comment on the Special Marriage Act. We saw what happened in Uttar Pradesh, for instance. It is when the couples, went to the marriage registrar and filed their applications, and it is during the notice period that the vigilante forces came and attacked the families and reported to the police and basically harassed the couple. So in fact, it is the notice. Special Marriage Notice, Special Marriage Act mandatory notice that actually was a kickstart to, informing these kind of right-wing forces to garner into action. And this was also challenged in the Allahabad High Court, where the Allahabad High Court said that this notice should not be made mandatory. Now, these things have happened as far as the Special Marriage Act are concerned, but the question is, one of the things that I also wanted to say is it's not going to be a case where there is a conversion. The manner in which these anti-conversion laws have been implemented are against individuals who are marrying consensually without converting. It is there that this law is being implemented by the criminal justice system, by the police, by the vigilante forces, by the families who are opposing such couples. So it's the implementation that is going to be the biggest, problem. And a second, thing that I was also, I wanted to raise it earlier, was that we also have to understand that when this whole, the whole Love Jihad campaign, so-called campaign that has been started in Maharashtra, started also from the Shraddha Walkar case. And it is during this case that we saw that, a lot of these right-wing organizations came together, held staged protests, took out statements on Love Jihad. And that is also the genesis of this, committee has come from there. And instead of focusing on intimate partner violence, which happens in all kinds of relationships, live-in relationships, marriages, whether they are, marriages within the caste or outside the caste or outside the community, instead of focusing on domestic violence as an issue, instead of making justice accessible and criminal justice system accessible, okay, this has, in order to take all of that away, of course the crime is heinous, it's brutal, it is a brutal in case of, domestic violence that has taken place, yet the focus has been completely shifted from that and taken into Love Jihad.
I just wanted to add another point to what Lara said, that it's not only, it's the intimate partner violence that is, that what Lara is speaking of, but domestic violence is also family violence. And that we are not even bringing into the discourse. It is coming in that sweet language that Utkarsha mentioned, that why are families not looking after their daughters, or why have they cut off relationships with their daughters? But this is a question that we all need to ask within our families.
So in fact,
that there are,
if we talk about violence, the number of honor killing cases in our state, in our country, are much more than the other reported cases of this.
So this is an aspect that we are not talking about even now. That there are families who are ready to kill their children, who are ready to do everything to their children, and the state and the non-state actors are using that anger of the families against choices that people are making that are different from what families want them to make. And I think that hate that is existing within this so-called beautiful family in which parents and children are supposed to be together forever and after, which we can't even get rid of. Like religion, like I can't get out of being born a Hindu ever, even in any sense. I cannot get rid of this family. It is there taking decisions on my behalf at all times. And so I think that there are issues of privacy that we have never raised in our context, which are now coming back to bite us in very heinous ways, because the same families are joining together as these non-state actors, along with state protection, to do this crime on us.
There's this constant turmoil which is being generated by the RSS and its affiliates in civil society. And of course, it's important to tackle this. But isn't it also part of the strategy to take away attention from really what is happening in the economy? And you see the mode of accumulation has changed so much, both at the level of surplus extraction as well as dispossession, that you constantly keep civil society embroiled in these issues. And these other things that are happening, cartelization, centralization of capital in India, does not talk about at all the destruction of the unions. The whole, these parts which are very important, will change the way we live and the way we are reacting now. If you see there's no reaction to what is happening, it's because people are so caught up in making a living. And so these basic questions we don't get to tackle. And one after the other issues are constantly being generated to keep civil society engaged.
Yeah, and the point is, so far as Maharashtra is concerned, the trigger point, as has been pointed out, was Shraddha Walkar's brutal murder. Now, just the other day, one veteran TV actress has been murdered in this city by his son, both from evidently the same religious community. Somewhere else, a mother and son combined to kill the father. And there are various other instances. Yet Shraddha Walkar's murder has been communalized. That's the one point. The second point I think I would like to underline. Irfan actually hit the nail right on its head. He said that why this move? Because to polarize the society, particularly in Maharashtra, this government is insecure. All said and done with all sorts of supports. So their only way out is to polarize. Let Hindus fight against Muslims, Muslims also react and respond. Then it will be easier for us. That's the other point one has to keep in mind. A third minor point that actually Irfan said, innovative ways of protesting, which came to my mind. Chayanika, in her introductory remark, referred to Rahul Gandhi's Nafrat ka bazaar mein muhabbat ki dukaan. Rahul Gandhi and Bharat Jodo Yatra has been dissected like anything. Right now, the T-shirt is on the top of the list. Forget about that. What I believe has escaped our notice that from the very beginning, Rahul Gandhi, the way he publicly conducted himself in relations to women, that came under attack. That never deterred Rahul Gandhi from doing what he is doing. And not only he is doing, actually the videos which are being made that shows repeatedly he is hugging women, men, starting from little ones to old ones. And even he did it such thing to Priyanka Gandhi as well on stage, and it has been repeatedly shown. So I personally believe that it's not just like that. It has got a deliberate intention behind it. He wants to normalize physical proximity between men and women in a society which is gender segregated, which is highly conservative. That point, I believe, should be taken note of. That's all.
Add to what you're saying, I completely agree with Chayanika's thing about domestic violence per se, and that's so normalized. It's right from childhood is normalized that parents are meant to control children, even by physical violence, or by any other means of isolating or whatever. But we also see, and people like you must have seen, that when there are intercaste or interreligious marriages, while there is opposition in the beginning, people do come around in the families. So in our appeal, we should also bring this aspect that not just the individuals who get into relationships and or live together or marry or whatever, it's the families also see relationships on ground as they enter in relationships which they've never had contact with. And so that is something that this move is trying to block, that the agency of citizens themselves to choose whether they want new familial ties or not. And so not completely put family in box, but also include them as my suggestion.
Yes. I just wanted to say, being with the other moves that they did, CA, etc. It was, that is an anti-minority, including this one. But the support that it garnered from other sections, like the Muslims, that was phenomenal. But for a move like this, even the Muslims don't want interreligious marriages. Nobody wants interreligious marriages. So who's going to challenge it? And I think we really need to think of, maybe, so Chayanika says that we, the older people, should be doing whatever. But I think this is an issue which is going to affect the young people a great deal. And the young people should really think of how we should be responding and making a big noise around that. So this is one thing. Second, I just think, so this is only heterosexual living relationships that they are monitoring. Yeah. Because
everything but daughters and...
But for all you know, it might be the parents who will go and report that, my daughter is doing this with another Muslim girl, or, a Muslim man, and it might come under the scan at some point in time. So, being one way and think creatively. You really need to think creatively.
I just want to say that we heard a lot about the young people. Lots of them are here in this audience. I hope they find their way rather than have us impose ours. Is it on? Let's not use the word the young people.
No, my voice is loud enough. I think what you were saying that this is a preamble to the law. So what you said about the Women's Commission responding to protests or opposition which is coming. So can we make a plan to protest this GR in all different ways? Maybe if PUCL comes out with the GR and analysis and maybe a signature campaign or something, and that we take to the colleges, if that goes to the Women's Commission, could you take action on this and say, ki, see, so much opposition is coming regarding the GR?
So actually I was just waiting for the ending comment to come, the story that is sent, because we need to keep the band intact. These kind of efforts where the civil society or apart from the state actors, where people can come together, many campaigns, signature campaigns have already taken place. I think Chayanika and many of us have been a part of it. But if we can take this fight further to people who is going to be most affected by this, I mean, nothing like it. And as I said, IOG has a little restrictions to work within, but wherever we can put our foot down and summon them, call them, we will be doing it definitely. So I think if we can plan out something like this, we will definitely, it will be helpful. I don't know whether it will work.
It can be addressed to the government and to the commission and to the government and whoever are the concerned people. But you may take some action on it, they will not take any action on it.
And I think the social media can be used in a big way in this.
Yeah.
We can plan something.
Yeah, I just wanted to make, I don't know whether forcible conversions are being made anywhere in the country. I'm just back from Chhattisgarh. Christian Adivasis are being forced to convert to Hinduism. It's not, there's no concept of reconversion according to my understanding. Everything is conversion. They are being forced to convert from Christianity to Hinduism. And thousands of them have been turned out of their villages because they are doggedly resisting that conversion to Hinduism. So, if there is post-conversion, and even I don't know any other example, the example that I know is of Chhattisgarh.
What about Gujarat?
The last two comments,
I think that we are now.
And we have a performance. We have a performance which we want everyone of you to stay for. So just to speed up that process.
I just want to ask, with the Congress of the Mahavikas Aghadi, how are they planning to respond to this in a more potent way? Like, are you guys planning to come to the street or actually make a political protest? Like, yeah, so politically.
Officially, the stand of the Congress party is we've already raised this in the House, and 2 of our MLAs have already put it on record that we do not want this to happen, and without any further discussion, just pull down the GR is what we have demanded for. But as an IO, if I again come back to that point, as I said, we need to keep on doing this. This is not a single letter thing that they'll agree, because I just want to mention, after the meeting that we had with the civil society, after the letter we sent, after the protest we had in Bombay, we had a delegation of Janwadi and all these senior members who went and met the WCD minister in Nagpur during the session. But there was no response. No positive response, or I'm not really sure whether anything happened, but nothing came out from that. So I think constantly we need to hit on that through all the efforts that we can make. And as a political party, we've already taken that stand now. Whether we take it to the streets or not, how many within the party, as I said, I'm a confused lot here because I also don't know how many within the party really want to oppose this. But wherever possible, we are putting our foot down definitely. And I'm happy that a woman MLA did that in the House.
Do you have any concluding comments? Is there a danger?
नफरत के इस दौर में हम भी एक बाजार लेके खड़े हैं. बाजार में हम भी प्यार का गाना गा रहे हैं. हमारा दुकान में में प्यार मिलता है, मोहब्बत मिलती है, अमन मिलता है, कबीर साहब मिलते हैं, तुकाराम मिलता है, बुद्ध मिलता है, गांधी जी मिलते हैं, भगत सिंह मिलता है, जो कोई इस इंसानियत के लिए काम किया है वो लोग मिलते हैं। तो कबीर साहब कहते हैं जो घट प्रेम न संचरे वो घट जान मसान, जैसे खाल लुहार की सांस लेत बिनु प्राण। प्यार नहीं है मन में तो आप मसान में है, मसान है, आप तो मुर्दे हैं, और ये मुर्दे लोग आसपास बहुत घूम रहे हैं और वो ही ऐसे कानून बना रहे हैं। मरे हुए लोग हैं, जिंदा दिल नहीं है। और खुसरो साहब भी कहते हैं खुसरो पाती प्रेम की जो बिरला बाचे को, वेद पुराण पोथी पढ़े प्रेम बिना का हो। अज वेद पुराण पोथी पढ़े प्रेम बिना का हो। तो ये धरातल है हमारी, ये हमारी लीगेसी है। लेकिन आज क्या हो रहा है, बहुत ही फ्रस्ट्रेटिंग माहौल है। लेकिन सब जवान आप जैसे को देखकर हम जवानों को भी ताकत आती है ना, क्योंकि आपका मेंटल हेल्थ बहुत अच्छा है, आनंद है। लेकिन आज के हम जैसे जवानों का मेंटल हेल्थ बहुत ही खराब बिगड़ा हो चुका है। या रियली सो आप जैसे जवानों को देख के हमें ताकत मिलती है। आनंद दादा है यहाँ, चयनिका है, सबको मिल देख के। इसलिए आओ मिलकर दुनिया में, आओ मिलकर दुनिया में, रंग अमन के हम भरे, रंग अमन के हम भरे। हो रिश्ते हुए जख्मों पर, रिश्ते हुए जख्मों पर आओ हम बने, रंग अमन के हम भरे, रंग अमन के हम भरे। हो रंग अमन के हम भरे। मैं तो देखूंगा, तुम भी देखोगे, तुम भी देखोगे। आप भी गा सकते तो देखूंगा, मैं तो देखूंगा, तुम भी देखोगे, तुम भी देखोगे।
अरे लेकिन क्या देखोगे भैया?
जब रोटी सस्ती होगी और महंगी होगी जा, जब रोटी सस्ती होगी महंगी होगी जा, वो दिन हम लाएंगे ना। वो दिन फिर आएगा जब ऐसा होगा ये जहां। मैं तो देखूंगा, मैं तो देखूंगा, तुम भी देखोगे, तुम भी देखोगे। ला 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 गाइए। ला 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 ला। हो जाएंगे, हो सब भीड़ में मिल जाएंगे। जो दूर गए थे भूले से, जो दूर गए थे भूले से लौटेंगे फिर वतन को एक निशान। उनको भी चैन नहीं है, उनको भी सुकून नहीं है, वो भी नफरत से भरे। उनको भी लगता है कि प्यार करें। मतलब मेरा भी एक इंटरकास्ट मैरिज है, मैं भी मेरी उसके दादी को देखता था, उनको मुझसे प्यार करना था, लेकिन उनको जाती उनको अंदर से बात करती, नहीं इससे कैसे मैं बात करूँ। लेकिन बात मतलब कि हम नहीं, आप भी सफर, वो भी सफर कर रहे हैं और बहुत सफर करेंगे एक टाइम में। ये कास्ट, ये भेदभाव, ये नफरत हर एक को सफर करेगी। ऐसा नहीं कि हम लोगों को सफर कर रहे, वो भी बहुत डिस्टर्ब है। और उम्मीद करते हैं जो दूर गए थे भूल से, जो दूर जब ऐसा होगा ये जहां मैं तो देखूंगा, तुम भी देखोगे, तुम भी देखोगे, मैं तो देखूंगी, मैं तो देखूंगी, तुम भी देखोगे, तुम भी देखोगे। जब रोटी सस्ती होगी और महंगी होगी जा, वो दिन फिर आएगा जब ऐसा होगा ये जहां मैं तो देखूंगी। आवाज आने दीजिए। होगी, तुम भी देखोगे, तुम भी देखोगे। ला 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 जब रंग बिरंगे झंडे एक परचम में घुल जाएंगे, हो एक परचम में घुल जाएंगे। जो इधर उधर को जाते रस्ते एक मोड़ पे मिल जाएंगे, हो एक मोड़ पे मिल जाएंगे। जब बच्चे मुल्क पे राज करें, जब बच्चे मुल्क पे राज करें और स्कूल में बैठे हो सियासत, जब बच्चे मुल्क पे राज करें, हम बोलते हैं कि स्कूल में बैठे हो। एनआरसी ने बहुत गाना गाया क्योंकि उनका स्कूलिंग गलत स्कूल में हुआ है ना। शिवाजी ने गलती किया है ना, सावरकर जी ने क्या कहा, शिवाजी ने गलती किया कि उस मुस्लिम औरत को छोड़ दिया, तो उनका स्कूलिंग सावरकर का, गोलवलकर का है। हमारा स्कूलिंग गांधी जी का है, बाबा साहब का है, महात्मा फुले का है, पेरियार का है। ये स्कूलिंग उनका गलत स्कूल में हुआ है। उम्मीद करते हैं फिर से उनको, उम्मीद है कि रिवाइंड करके उनका फिर से स्कूल हो सकता है क्या। तो इसलिए कहते हैं जब बच्चे हैं मुल्क पे राज करे, हो जब बच्चे मुल्क पे राज करे और स्कूल में बैठे हो सियासत, वो दिन फिर आएगा जब ऐसा होगा ये जहां मैं तो देखूंगा, मैं तो देखूंगा, तुम भी देखोगे, तुम भी देखोगे। मैं तो देखूंगी, मैं तो देखूंगी, तुम भी देखोगे, तुम भी देखोगे। ला 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 क्लास ला 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 बहुत ठंडा माहौल है। लास्ट गीत दो ही एक ही स्थान पे गाएंगे। उम्मीद करेंगे कि हमने लास्ट वीक लॉकडाउन में लव आजाद नाम का एक कैंपेनिंग चलाया था सोशल मीडिया पे। एक शॉर्ट फिल्म बनाई है, बहुत सारी कविताएं बनाए, प्यार के गाने बनाए हैं और सोशल मीडिया पे बहुत सारे लोगों को इनवाइट कर रहे थे बोलने के लिए जो लोग। सो वी आर रेडी टू परफॉर्म, हम बनाने के लिए तैयार है। मैं रिक्वेस्ट करूँ, गीता जी से भी बात हुआ कि हम सेपरेटली प्रोग्राम प्लान करें और आगे और बढ़ाएं ये कैंपेन को, कैसे कर सकते हैं हम तैयार है। हमारे मयूर साथ है, पूरा अलगर का बड़ा टीम है। हम लोग कल बदलापुर में जा रहे हैं परफॉर्मेंस के लिए, तो वहाँ कुछ लोग जुड़ने वाले हैं। ऑन दी वे थे तो लोग चलो साथ में गाते हैं। सिद्धार्थ की इच्छा है कि ये हम थोड़ा गीत गाए, आप सबको पता है, बल्कि हम थोड़े हमारे अंदाज में गा रहे हैं। ओ मेरा बिछड़ा यार मिला दे, ओ रब्बा यार मिला दे, मेरा बिछड़ा यार मिला दे, ओ रब्बा यार मिला दे, मेरा सोना यार मिला दे, ओ रब्बा यार मिला दे, मेरा सोना यार मिला दे, ओ रब्बा वे, ओ रब्बा वे, ओ रब्बा वे, ओ रब्बा वे। इश्क न काशी, इश्क न काबा, इश्क न मथुरा मक्का, इश्क न मथुरा मक्का, इश्क न मथुरा मक्का, इश्क न बाइबल, इश्क न पोथी, वेद पुराण न गीता, वेद पुराण न गीता, वेद पुराण न गीता, ओ इश्क न फादर, इश्क न पंडित, इश्क न काजी मुल्ला, इश्क न काजी मुल्ला, इश्क न काजी मुल्ला, इश्क न काला, इश्क न गोरा, इश्क हराना केसरिया, इश्क हराना केसरिया, इश्क हराना केसरिया, रब्बा 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 रब्बा, इन धर्मों को मिलवा दे रे, इन धर्मों को मिलवा दे रे, रब्बा यार मिला दे रे, मेरा सोना यार मिला दे रे, हो रब्बा यार मिला दे रे, मेरा बिछड़ा यार मिला दे रे, हो रब्बा वे, हो रब्बा वे, हो रब्बा वे, हो रब्बा वे। कितना कॉन्ट्रडिक्शन है। चल वहां तो बोर्ड लगा है G20 का, वसुधैव वसुधैव कुटुंबकमम, क्या बात है मोदी जी, वाह, वसुधैव कुटुंबकमम की बात कर रहे हैं और यहाँ अपने घरों में इंसान नहीं चाहिए, कोई मुस्लिम नहीं चाहिए। आज माहिम चर्च में वेंडलाइज माहिम चर्च से क्रॉस तोड़े गए हैं। अभी उस दिन बड़ौदा में, गुजरात में एक सेंटा क्लॉज टॉफिया माहिम में टॉफिया बांट रहा था सेंटा क्लॉज, उसको मार के भगा दिया, हमारे यहाँ नहीं चलेगा। और ये लीडरशिप करे वसुधैव कुटुंबकम की, क्या कितना दोगलापन है, ये हमें लोगों के सामने लाना पड़ेगा। ये हमारी विरासत है। तुकाराम कहते हैं, कबीर कहते हैं, रविदास कहते हैं, हम सारी दुनिया को घर मानते हैं, लेकिन अंदर कितना बड़ा, और कोई जो घर साबुत रहने के लिए जो काम करता है उनको जेलों में डालने का काम भी ये सरकार कर रहे हैं। लेकिन हम कलाकार लोगों में जाएंगे, गांव में जाएंगे और इनका ये दोगलापन, ये बबूला भगत जो बना बेटा है, उसका भी फेस हमें लोगों को बताना पड़ेगा। इसलिए कवि क्या कहते हैं, विनय महाजन जी कहते हैं, हो इश्क न पाकिस्तान न हिंदुस्तान न इंग्लिस्ताना, इश्क न इंग्लिस्ताना, इश्क न इंग्लिस्ताना, इश्क न बांग्ला ना ही ईराना, ना है तालिबाना, ओ ना है तालिबाना, ना है तालिबाना, हो इश्क न जाने कोई नेपाला, इश्क न लंका बर्मा, हो इश्क न लंका बर्मा, इश्क न लंका। मुझे क्या पढ़िए, जिसको चे में यार है मेरा, हो जिसको चे में यार है मेरा, मेरा वही ठिकाना, मेरा वही ठिकाना, मेरा वही ठिकाना, रब्बा 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 रब्बा, इन देशों को मिलवा दे रे, इन देशों को मिलवा दे रे, रब्बा यार मिला दे रे, रब्बा यार मिला दे रे, ओ रब्बा यार मिला दे रे, रब्बा यार मिला दे रे, ओ रब्बा वे, दुनिया में प्यार जगे तो 100 दिए जलाना, 100 दिए जलाना, 100 दिए जलाना। इस दुनिया का सबसे सांझा ताजमहल बनवाना, ताजमहल बनवाना, ताजमहल बनवाना। आज नफरत करने वालों को थोड़ा सा प्यार सिखाना, थोड़ा सा प्यार सिखाना, थोड़ा सा प्यार सिखाना। आज सबको प्यार सिखा दे रे, आज सबको एक करा दे रे। इस जातिवाद ने हमें कभी प्यार करना सिखाया नहीं। हाँ, मेरे क्लासमेट की दादा, मेरी दोस्त पढ़ती थी मेरे साथ, कलीग MA कर रही है थिएटर आर्ट्स। उसके मम्मी पापा ने बोल दिया कि मुस्लिम और दलित छोड़ के किसी से भी प्यार कर चलेगा, और शी गोइंग थ्रू आउट, वो कैरी कर रही है उतना। मतलब ये कैसे प्यार कर सकता है कोई? अगर आप जातिवादी हो तो नहीं, आप दोगले हो, नहीं झूठे यार, आप नहीं कर रहे हैं। अगर आपके दिमाग ये भेदभाव है तो क्यों, कैसे प्यार कर सकते हैं? आप नहीं कर सकते। और हम सच्चा प्यार इस दुनिया में चाहते हैं क्योंकि हम बुद्ध को मानते हैं, कबीर को मानते हैं। इसलिए कहते हैं कि प्यार सिखाने की चीज़ है। बेल हुक्स भी कहते हैं ना, इट्स ऑल अबाउट लव। सो इट्स ऑल अबाउट लव। वी हैव टू, हमको खुद को भी सिखाना पड़ेगा और आने वाली कौमों को भी सिखाना पड़ेगा। इसलिए हम सबको प्यार सिखा दे। हम भी नास्तिक है, रब्बा का कवि ने लिखा है, रब्बा हाफ है रब्बा हम है। कबीर साहब जो कहते हैं कि हर एक में रब्बा है, वो रब्बा है। हर रब्बा 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 रब्बा